when I watched that game last night, we always talk about situational football, like red zone football. Last night was situational basketball, but the situation was Dame hit 2 big threes late and Melo hit one. That was the game. That was really the game. There are 3 problems with the Lakers I saw last night. Now, 2 of them will not get in the way of the Lakers potentially winning this series. 2 of them won't. 1 will. So let's talk about the first thing I saw. Once again, Anthony Davis disappears in the fourth. This is who he is. He got no dog. He's great in the first 2-3 quarters, but his fourth quarter last night, minus 11. The graphic for our Fox Sports FS1 audience, he just disappears. Some of it's, I think a lot of it's psychology. Maybe he runs out of gas. But, I mean, now, the Lakers can still beat Portland with this because they beat the Clippers twice this year, and AD disappeared in those games. The Lakers were the number 1 seed in the West, and Anthony Davis disappeared in a lot of fourth quarter games this year. So the first problem, and it happened again last night, is not going to get in the way of LA beating Portland this series. The second problem, Lakers do not have a trustable and dependable third scorer. Again, they ended up number 1 in the West, not having one. Danny Green was awful, minus 20, couldn't hit shots. Kuzma, LeBron didn't trust Kuzma. You can see his body language. Again, this doesn't necessarily mean that the Lakers can't beat Portland. Okay. The third problem, and it's very rare. I see this every few years with LeBron. It's very infrequent, but I've seen it happen before. And this one, if you're a Laker fan, is a problem. It's very subtle. LeBron began overpassing last night. Everybody say, oh, his passing was great. This team does not have a dependable third scorer. LeBron needs to drop 34, not end up with 15 assists. Why is he overpassing? Because of Whiteside. Hassan Whiteside had 5 blocks, played very well. This is what Roy Hibbert did. Remember years ago when LeBron and that Miami team would face Indiana and the games were way closer than they should have been? You're always like, how is D-Wade and LeBron and Bosh struggling with Indiana? Now, they would win the series, but they were difficult because Roy Hibbert would get in LeBron's head and LeBron would start overpassing. This is a LeBron thing, and it doesn't happen very often. But this is why LeBron, when he plays with Kevin Love or Chris Bosh or Anthony Davis, would prefer those guys are out of the lane so that the guy guarding them, the big, doesn't block the rim. It doesn't happen a lot. And everybody last night was doing a victory lap on LeBron's passing. This team is not gifted offensively enough to win with LeBron being the best passer on the floor. They're going to win if he scores in this series because you can't trust Danny Green. You can't trust Kuzma. Rondo's coming back. He's not a shooter. This is a bunch of odd parts. It's a reality show in sneakers. So the first 2 will not get in the way of beating Portland. AD disappears in the fourth. He does all the time. And they don't have a trustable third scorer. I mean, they beat Portland earlier this year with those things. But LeBron, and it's subtle, and it doesn't happen very often. But a couple of things have happened throughout LeBron's career multiple times. He loses occasionally confidence in his jumper. Now, it doesn't happen much anymore. It did a lot in his first 10 years. So what would he do when that happened? He would score at the rim. It happens very infrequently now that he loses confidence in his jumper, but he's always liked the basket clear. He's always liked it clear. So if he loses confidence in his jumper, he can take the smaller defender, the slower defender, and score at the basket where he's all-time remarkable. But just keep your eye on this. If Hassan Whiteside, who's a lot better than Roy Hibbert, if he gets into LeBron's head in this series and LeBron becomes uber passer, super passer, best teammate ever, that's a problem because the Lakers are not deep enough or talented enough for LeBron to dominate and get 17 assists a night. He's got to drop 34 in this series at some point to clinch it because Portland's real. I always feel this way with politics, like your political affiliation, if you're a conservative or you're a liberal, you see the same story different ways based on what side you're on. And I've always thought I'm kind of right in the middle. And so I try to offer clarity on stuff in sports. And I'm not a fan anymore, although there are certain athletes I like. But the Blazers-Lakers, you saw 2 different games last night. I went to Twitter last night. One game, it was amazing to listen to the fan bases. Lakers fans last night were saying, hey, I mean, we shot 5 for 32 on threes, and we were in it until the end. Well, that is a good point. That game, that is true. Blazer fans said, Dame disappeared for 2 quarters. This is the lowest we've ever scored in a win this year, and we still won. To be honest with you, that is true. A Laker fan said, hey, we've been off basically a week. We're rusty. Well, you do make a good point if you're a Laker fan. Blazer fans are like, hey, we're exhausted. We didn't play that well, we won. These are very satiant points. But then all of a sudden you start making arguments, and it's like, okay, now you're a fan. I heard this one last night. Laker fan. We cannot shoot this poorly again. Oh, no, you can. You were the worst shooting team in the bubble. You were awful offensively in the bubble. Of all the playoff games, all the teams in the playoffs, you're the only one that didn't score 100, and you weren't close. And Portland's a terrible defensive team. So, Laker fans, you've had a lot of nights in the bubble you shot like that. This is not something new. Blazer fans also said this. Hey, we were really tired last night. What, you guys got a week at the Marriott down the street? Like, there's no big long stretches of rest coming for the Blazers. This is who you are now. You don't get off nights. This is the bubble. They're speeding things up. There's no all-star break. That you had that for 4 months. You're going to be tired. You're not going to be an energized team every minute on the floor. I think that the scary thing for Laker fans this morning is that this is kind of what you saw last night, just sort of an amplified version of what they've become in the bubble, is that AD disappears in the fourth. They don't shoot particularly well. You never know who the number 3 guy is, and they're sluggish offensively. They're good defensively. They're really long, but, Dwight Howard, JaVale McGee, they got a lot of size, Anthony Davis. But if I'm the Lakers, the one thing I worry about is, the hell happened to our offense? It's been bad the entire time in the bubble. And Portland's an atrocious defensive team compared to, say, like Milwaukee or the Clippers or Toronto. I mean, I think Houston's actually played really good defense. They were very effective yesterday. So, and I will say this. When I was watching that game, I didn't think either team played particularly well. But the one thing that jumped out to me was Portland's got a lot of things where, like, they were better early, they were better late. And that's kind of the NBA. Like, if you're better early and late, that tells me you're more focused, you got a game plan, and you got better finishers. And Melo hit a big shot, Dame hit 2 big shots, and the Anthony Davis thing disappearing this is what it is. Like it's funny about Anthony Davis. And the NBA is weird this way. Not even weird. It's just you can spot basketball talent really early. I've always told the story. So my daughter played some basketball in Connecticut. And I went to an AAU girls tournament. And I'm in this old gym in Hartford, Connecticut, downtown. And, a lot of parents and stuff. And there's like 7 courts. And I, as just a dude, walk in. And within 30 seconds, I turn to a guy next to me, introduce myself. He's a scout, like a college scout. And I said, way over there, who's that tiny little girl with the handles? And he's like, yeah, that's the best player here. 30 seconds. 7th grader. And I'm like, boy, she's really got handles. She's clever for, both hands dribbling. It's like you can spot basketball talent really early. Anybody can. I mean, I remember I've told the story. A buddy of mine, Brian Berger, called me when Dwight Howard was 15. He's like, the next great center, I'm at a basketball Nike camp. His name is Dwight Howard. I'm like, where? He's like, he's going to be a junior this year. Like in football, a lot of times, I mean, it takes a long time for football players to develop. But with Anthony Davis, he was great at 12. He was great at 17. He's great now, but there is no next level. Like what you're seeing is what he is, and it's not dependable in the fourth.